Tonight is a continuation of our George P. Shultz lecture series held here at the Marines Memorial Club in downtown San Francisco. Secretary Shultz will introduce our speaker for tonight. In today's day and age, we rely on something called a GPS to keep us from getting lost, to help us get to where we need to go, and generally give us comfort and confidence in traversing the unfamiliar territories that surround us. The Marines Memorial is honored to have its own GPS, but rather than being a global positioning system, our GPS is George Pratt Shultz. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Secretary George P. Shultz.
Thank you, Mike. He has had numerous commands, including combat commands in Iraq and elsewhere. He's the general who supervised the Libyan efforts that we had recently. It is going to be fascinating to hear him talk about what's going on in those fields. And I'm really feel privileged that we have him here at the Marine Memorial for this lecture series. And it's a great pleasure for me now to call on General Ham to address us. General Ham.
I took the opportunity today while here to wander through the Marines Memorial Club. It's absolutely amazing. And I was humbled as I wandered through the halls and displays. You know, as a nation, we've been so blessed to have so many in our ranks, the men and women who are honored in this great place. And it's just wonderful to see the dignified manner in which you have commemorated their courage, their service, and their sacrifice. It really is moving. In fact, today when General Maya came to see me, he caught me. I'd been upstairs to the wall of tribute, visiting some friends up there. So thank you for that great opportunity. What I'd like to do first is talk a bit about why, at least in my view, why Africa matters, and why should we care about Africa. Following that, do a brief walk around the continent, kind of region by region, to tell you a little bit about what we're doing and why. Diplomacy, development, and defense. And that's perhaps a pretty good framework for us to consider our interest in Africa. There are about 1 billion people in Africa, about 1/7 of the global population. That's a lot. 54 nations, as I indicated. That means over 25% of the members of the United Nations. There's always at least one, usually two, African members of the United Nations Security Council. That matters diplomatically. On the development side, Africa is home to 6 of the world's fastest growing economies. Our mission is to strengthen the defense capabilities of our African partners so that they can not only provide for their own security, but also contribute increasingly to regional and continental security requirements. So that's what we seek to do, to find opportunities to partner with African nations in ways and in areas that they would like for us to help, so that we can assist them in building the security capabilities that they require. And the reason that I have prioritized East Africa highest is because that's the area of Africa from which I think the most dangerous threats to our country emanate. And I would have to start in the country of Somalia with a terrorist organization known as Al-Shabaab, who has started as an internal organization, but has been co-opted by violent Islamic extremists, closely aligned with and associated with Al-Qaeda senior leaders and with Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. But Al-Shabaab is focused more on just killing Americans. As you have heard, there is a very severe famine in East Africa, a famine which has resulted in more than 12 million people being in dire circumstance for food and for water. 750,000 people in that area are in imminent need, meaning by USAID's assessment that within the next 90 days, if they are not provided immediate and sustained relief, 750,000 people could very well die. Al-Shabaab is preventing the delivery of relief aid into the areas which are most affected by this East African famine. Somali pirates have captured ships and demanded ransoms well in excess of $100 million just this year. And we should not forget that earlier this year, Somali pirates murdered 4 Americans. So piracy matters to us. Also in East Africa, we see the world's newest nation, the Republic of South Sudan, which was born on the 9th of July. But there are always challenges when new nations are created. And South Sudan needs some assistance, particularly in the area of security. And so we're very much engaged with them in that endeavor. And then finally in the East, we have the issue of the Lord's Resistance Army. You'll notice a few weeks ago, an announcement that we were deploying about 100 service members to assist the Ugandans, the Congolese, the South Sudanese, and the Central African Republic in their efforts to bring the leaders of the Lord's Resistance Army to justice. Let me turn to North Africa. And if you might notice, there's been a little change in North Africa recently. President Obama has said this is a year of transformation, and nowhere is that more evident than across North Africa. The Arab Spring, or as General Mattis talked to you a few months ago, the Arab Awakening originated in Tunisia, spread to Egypt, manifested itself in a different way in Libya, and is now spreading more broadly. So that's an area of great importance to us. And I think there are some reassuring components of this and some components of concern. We noticed in Tunisia, very successfully conducted what by all measures are free and fair elections. Moving now to West Africa and to the Sahel, we find another terrorist organization, Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Islamic Maghreb. Again, a very dangerous organization, small, numbering in the hundreds of core members, but they're well financed because their primary modus operandi is ransom or kidnapping for ransom, almost exclusively of Westerners. But they have clearly espoused their desire and intent to attack American targets in West Africa, in Europe if they can, and so an organization of very grave concern. Our role in countering them is to help West African and countries in the Sahel develop their counterterrorist, develop their intelligence capability so that they are increasingly capable of addressing this threat from within. Moving to the central part of the continent, in Nigeria, a large, powerful country, and we see the third of the major terrorist organizations on the continent, Boko Haram, also known as the Nigerian Taliban. Operating principally in the northern part, the Muslim part of Nigeria, they recently attacked the United Nations headquarters in the capital of Nigeria, and like al-Shabaab, like al-Qaeda in lands of the Islamic Maghreb, have clearly stated their intent, their desire to attack U.S. and Western targets. The U.S. Embassy in Abuja right now is under increased threat levels because of Boko Haram's activities. The Democratic Republic of Congo, a huge nation, extending almost from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic, exceedingly diverse. I would argue the most diverse country in Africa from any way you would like to look at it. Geographically, demographically, it's extraordinarily diverse. They've got elections coming up in about 2 weeks. All indications are things are moving in a very positive direction, but there's always concern. Our role, helping the Democratic Republic of Congo military forces be prepared for their role in ensuring the elections are safe and secure. In closing, let me leave you with my most favorite African proverb, one I think suits us at Africa Command very well. And there are lots of African proverbs. That's one of the nice things that I gained by traveling about. This one comes from Central Africa, and it says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We at U.S. Africa Command choose to go far, and we choose to go together with our African partners. Thank you. And there was a lot of concern that when the first bombs dropped in Libya,
that this would change the Africans' view about U.S. Africa Command and would make it very difficult for me personally and for the command to continue its program of engagement with the Africans. One of the advantages of being the new guy is you don't have lots of baggage. So as I was traveling around, I would just ask ministers of defense, presidents, and chiefs of defense that question. I'd say, hey, have we screwed this up? You know, have our operations in Libya changed how you think about us, changed our relationship in any way? And generally the answer was no, but I remember one specific response from a long-serving chief of defense staff when I asked him that question, do you think this will change our relationship? He kind of leaned back in his chair and he said, General, the countries who hate you will still hate you, and the countries who don't hate you still won't hate you. That was pretty profound, I think. How could anything be more important than being in a combat zone and frankly, carrying some baggage for having lost so many soldiers? And I was just wrestling with that. We shouldn't be shy about saying, you know, I need a little bit of help. We've got great systems. We've got great programs. We've got wonderful chaplains, mental health professionals, commanders, friends, mentors, family members. And if you need a little bit of help, there's no harm in saying you need a little bit of help. Thank you.